Imagine hacking your way through a dense jungle in 19th century Myanmar.
Oh, man.
Right. You finally step into this clearing, you're totally exhausted, and you sit down with the elders of this indigenous tribe.
A tribe that has been completely, isolated from the Western world.
Exactly. You don't share a language, a history, or like any culture at all. Yet as they begin to recite their most sacred ancient poetry, a chill just goes down your spine.
Because it's not what you'd expect.
No. Because they aren't just telling some local myth. They're essentially reciting the book of Genesis.
Yeah, it completely shatters that standard anthropological assumption, that isolated cultures just automatically develop completely unique mythologies.
It really does.
Finding something like that, it forces a complete reevaluation of how ideas travel across the globe, or, how they might originate independently.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring what I think is one of the most astonishing mysteries in the study of religion.
It's definitely up there.
We're heading into the mountains of Myanmar, which was formerly Burma and Thailand, to look at the Karen or Kane ethnic people.
Right, because for centuries, this indigenous group has maintained an oral monotheistic tradition. And it's centered around a supreme creator deity named Yawa.
I mean, for 200 years now, scholars have just been baffled by the incredibly precise parallels between Yawa and the God of the Hebrew Bible, YHWH.
To unpack this, we're drawing from a really fascinating stack of sources today. We're looking at comprehensive academic syntheses, like the research of Frank Leo.
Which is great because he pulls together those primary ethnographic records from the 1800s.
Yeah, exactly. But we're also looking directly at the original Karen poetic traditions, which are called the Htay.
The Htay, right.
That's right. And we're cross-referencing those with Hebrew texts, the Septuagint, and even like obscure Jewish mystical texts like the Zohar and 3 Enoch.
So our mission today is to lay out this absolutely mind-bending theological convergence. We want to dive into the intense scholarly debate over how two seemingly disconnected cultures ended up with essentially the exact same cosmic story.
Because in our modern age, where you can just send a thought around the world in a second, it's hard to imagine.
Yeah, it's so easy for us now.
Right. So this deep dive is a profound look at how sacred knowledge either travels across continents over millennia or somehow spontaneously arises in the human mind.
And what's so wild here is the sheer scale of the convergence. Like, we aren't just looking at a vague similarity.
No, it's not like two cultures happening to have a sky god who throws lightning bolts or something.
Right. We're looking at linguistic, doctrinal, and narrative fingerprints that match with just an eerie level of precision.
So where should we start?
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the most immediate glaring parallel. And that's the name of the deity itself.
The name is huge.
In the Karen tradition, the supreme creator is Yawa. Sometimes it's spelled Yawa or Yawa.
Right. And in the Hebrew tradition, the personal name of God is the Tetragrammaton, YHWH, which modern scholars vocalize as Yahweh.
Which sound almost identical.
Well, yeah. I mean, the phonological proximity is basically a linguist's dream. Both names begin with a palatal glide, they move into a central open vowel, and they conclude with a bilabial or labiodental approximant.
Okay, wait, let me stop you there with the jargon.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
When you say bilabial approximant, you just mean that to make the Y, the Ah, and the W sounds, a speaker in ancient Israel and a speaker in the mountains of Myanmar.
They have to make the exact same sequence of mouth and lip movements.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's crazy.
They are practically twins in how they're spoken, and for a linguist, that is highly anomalous. I mean, spoken language mutates rapidly over time and distance.
Right. Consonants shift, vowels change over the years.
Exactly. The fact that a word would maintain that specific phonetic structure across thousands of miles, and potentially thousands of years, is, well, it's statistically wild.
But the true anomaly isn't just how the word sounds. It's what the word actually means.
Right, the theological attributes.
Yeah. Because in the Hebrew tradition, YHWH is derived from the root hey, which means to be or to become.
It's the foundation of that famous revelation to Moses, right? I am that I am.
Exactly. God just is. It's total self-existence. But I actually have to push back here on the Karen side.
Oh, how so?
Because the Karen root word for yibwa means something that is flowing, like wind or a stream. They actually call him the flowing Lord.
Yes, they do.
Isn't flowing wind completely different from I am who I am? I mean, one is a nature metaphor, and the other is this really heavy philosophical statement of existence. Aren't we stretching a bit to make those semantic meanings match?
I get why you'd say that, yeah. It seems like a stretch until you look at how the Karen themselves interpret that flowing metaphor in their sacred poetry.
Oh, okay.
In an oral culture, a concept like flowing, it isn't just about water. It implies something that is continuous, uncaused, and eternal.
Like a stream flowing without you having to push it.
Precisely. And one of the ancient Karen poems, the Shalah, it explicitly clarifies this. It actually states, Yuma has his becoming in and of himself, just as the dew falls in and of itself.
Oh.
Right? And it goes on, Yua was present at the very beginnings of the world. No one else created him.
His becoming in and of himself. I mean, that is heavyweight theology right there.
It really is. It bridges the gap perfectly. They aren't just worshiping like a local river spirit. They are worshiping the concept of an uncreated creator.
And they describe that uncreated creator using identical imagery to the Bible. Like the Karen tradition teaches, the earth is his footstool and heaven is his throne. Which is literally Isaiah 66.1. Heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool, word for word.
It's a highly specific relational metaphor for transcendence. The deity is vast enough that the cosmos is just a seat, yet close enough that earth is where the feet rest.
And finding that exact poetic device duplicated in an isolated hill tribe, I mean, that goes way beyond a lucky guess.
Way beyond. So we have a cosmic resume that matches perfectly. The same phonetic name, the same uncreated nature, the same throne and footstool.
But a deity's resume is just theory, right? What happens when we look at what this deity actually did?
Right, the actions.
Does the Karen creator build the world the same way as the biblical God? Because the narrative of how the universe was made is where these parallels go from, interesting to almost impossible.
Let's look at the Genesis account. It describes the primordial earth as formless and void. The Hebrew phrase is chushwashe, and it notes that the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
So creation begins with this dark, chaotic liquid.
Right. And the Karen Haisha states that when the earth was newly made, it was formless and empty.
Again, matching perfectly.
Yeah. And it specifically describes Yua taking the foam of water to create a banyan tree seed. So they have the exact same starting point. Formless water.
But then we get to the creation of humanity, which is wild.
Yeah.
Genesis says, God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed the breath of life into his nostrils.
And if you look at the early ethnographic records of the Karen, and these were taken from non-Christian elders, by the way, they document a story where Yahweh creates man from the earth, takes a little piece of his own life, and breathes into the nostrils of the two persons, so they come to life.
I want to offer an analogy for you, the listener, to kind of grasp the sheer magnitude of this specific detail.
It's a hard thing to wrap your head around.
It is. So, imagine you are a theater historian, and you find a script for a famous Shakespeare play in this dusty archive in London.
Okay, tracking with you.
Then you travel to a remote island in the Pacific and find a play they've been performing there for centuries. They've culturally adapted it for their local stage, right?
Right, silly.
Instead of an English oak tree, there's a banyan tree. But somehow they kept a bizarrely specific stage direction.
Like what?
Like the protagonist must enter wearing a blue shoe on his left foot and a red sandal on his right.
Right, something completely arbitrary.
Exactly. Creating a human by breathing into the nostrils of the dirt sculpture is that blue shoe.
And creating a woman from a rib is an even better example of that shared narrative DNA.
Oh, yeah.
In Genesis, God puts the man to sleep, takes a rib from his side, and builds the first woman. The Karen tradition features that exact same idiosyncratic biological detail.
Because it's not a universal human trope at all.
No, not even close. Humans in world mythology are, they're made from clay, they're carved from wood, hatched from cosmic eggs.
Or born from the blood of slain monsters.
Yeah. Taking a rib from the first man is a highly arbitrary plot point to develop completely independently.
And this shared DNA, it just keeps replicating right into the story of the fall.
Yeah.
In the Karen tradition, Yukwa provides a garden of food, but also appoints something called the fruit of trial.
And he gives detailed orders not to eat it.
But they are deceived by a figure named Mukali, who was a former servant of Yukwa that was cast out for insulting him.
Mukali tricks the first two humans into eating the fruit, promising them they'll ascend to heaven and become like gods themselves.
And as a direct result of this betrayal, sickness, aging, and death enter the world.
A garden, a forbidden tree, a fallen servant lying about the consequences, the deception, the curse of mortality. The beats are identical to Genesis 3.
They really are. But I did notice the name of the serpent figure, Mukali. That doesn't sound anything like Satan or Lucifer.
Well, no, it doesn't, but that actually requires looking beyond the standard biblical canon.
Really? Where to?
So in Hebrew, the general term for the adversary is Hashem. But in the extra-biblical Second Temple Jewish text known as the Book of Jubilees, the chief of the demonic spirits is named Mastema.
Mastema.
Right. And scholars of ancient religions point out the phonological connection between Mastema and Mukali, particularly that initial ma, or mu, syllable, combined with their, identical roles as fallen servants, bringing a curse upon the earth.
Man, it is just incredible to think about the mechanics of how an oral tradition preserves a specific name like that without a written language to anchor it.
It's a huge feat of memory.
It is. But that actually brings us to a massive psychological shift in this story. Because we've been talking about origins, right? Where the Karen believe they came from.
Let's pivot to their destiny.
Yeah. Because the Karen mythology centers around a profound, almost devastating sense of loss regarding a physical book.
They believed that Yawa gave their ancestors a golden book, or a book of silver and gold that contained all divine wisdom.
But because the elders were negligent and disobedient, they lost the book, basically severing their direct connection to Yawa.
Think about the emotional weight of that. You have an entire civilization defining itself by something it lost. It's like a phantom limb of divine knowledge.
And the linguistic pairing of a sacred text with silver and gold that instantly brings up the Psalms. Psalm 19 and 119 describe the Torah, the Hebrew law, as being more precious than gold and silver.
The parallel deepens, too, when we look at how the Karen believed they would get it back.
They had a prophecy, right?
Yes. The myth states that the Karen, who view themselves as the elder brother of humanity, watched the book wander away to foreigners. And they prophesied that a younger white brother, called the Kala, had faithfully preserved this golden book.
So their foundational expectation was that one day, this younger brother would return to restore the book, effectively saving the Karen.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Are we actually saying that this indigenous group in Southeast Asia was essentially waiting for a specific prophesied Messiah figure centuries before they ever even met a Western missionary?
The historical record confirms this behavioral expectation, actually, when the British diplomat Michael Symes visited a Karen village in 1795.
Which was decades before any known Protestant missionary arrived in the region.
Decades before, yeah. The villagers rushed out to inspect him. They were actively hoping he was the prophesied younger white brother bringing back the lost book of Yawa.
So they were primed and waiting. But how does that younger brother concept map onto the Hebrew tradition? Because there is no younger brother of God bringing a golden book in the Old Testament.
Well, this is where we have to look deeply into Jewish mysticism.
Okay.
In texts like the Zohar and Sefer Hekkelot, which is also known as 3 Enoch, there is a highly developed concept of a divine agent who bears the name of YHWH. These texts speak of a figure called the Lesser YHWH, or the Youth.
The Lesser YHWH, like a smaller, younger manifestation of the Creator.
Exactly. This figure, often identified as the translated patriarch Enoch or the angel Metatron, he sits on a throne beside God and reveals all the hidden mysteries of the Torah to humanity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the Zohar explicitly links this youth figure with the Messiah. So in Jewish mysticism, you have a lesser lord who restores the divine wisdom. In the Karen tradition, you have the younger brother who restores the golden book.
And then the Christian synthesis of this is essentially the bridge between the two. In Christian theology, Jesus is the Son of God who comes not to abolish the Torah, but to fulfill it.
To complete the lost law.
Right, so the structural map is perfectly aligned. Yawa is God the Father, the younger brother is the lesser YHWH, or Jesus the Son, and the golden book is the Holy Scriptures.
The sheer volume of correspondence is just staggering. I mean, from phonetic sounds to complex eschatological frameworks, the matching data points are overwhelming.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We have all this wild evidence laid out on the table, but how do the experts actually explain the mechanics of this?
How did it happen? Yeah.
Exactly, because there is a fierce scholarly debate over this, and for you as a listener, you really have to weigh this evidence for yourself, because we aren't endorsing either viewpoint, we're laying it out. Let's look at the two opposing camps.
On one side, we have the antiquity argument. Scholars like Don Richardson and the eminent ethnologist Berthel Laufer, they argue that these traditions are genuinely ancient.
Meaning they've just been passed down forever.
Right. They propose this might be a Noahide tradition, a form of proto-monotheism that predates formal Judaism and Christianity entirely.
Meaning this is an unbroken chain of human memory. that as ancient peoples migrated from the cradle of civilization in the Middle East, trekked through Central Asia, down through China, and finally into the mountains of Burma over thousands of years, they carried the original, uncorrupted story of Genesis with them.
That's the theory.
I have to say, that is a compelling argument. Just think about how hard it is to hold on to a belief system when every neighboring kingdom wants you to assimilate.
Right. The Karen fiercely maintained this monotheism despite centuries of intense pressure from surrounding Buddhist and animist empires.
And proponents of the antiquity view also point to what is missing from the Karen traditions, don't they?
Yes, that's a crucial point. There is no mention of Abraham, Moses, David, or Jesus in the original HT poems.
Which you'd expect to see if they just learned it recently.
Exactly. If they had been recently converted by wandering Christians or Jews, you would expect those specific historical names to feature prominently. Berthold Laufer also dismissed the idea that, small groups of Jewish merchants traveling into China could have exerted this level of deep theological influence on completely remote mountain-dwelling tribes in Myanmar.
The geographical isolation was simply too profound.
Way too profound.
So the antiquity side argues we are looking through a pristine ancient time capsule. It's a testament to the ironclad memory of oral traditions. But what about the skeptics? How does the missionary influence argument explain this away?
Well, scholars on that side, like Yoko Hayami and Theodore Stern, they urge us to look closely at the mechanics of who actually documented these oral traditions.
The observers themselves.
Right, because the vast majority of the written records we rely on come from 19th century Baptist missionaries. Men like Adoniram Judson, who met the first Karen convert in 1828 and literally translated the Bible into Burmese.
His mere presence in the region was like a theological gravity well.
It really was.
It's like a detective arriving at a crime scene and accidentally leaving their own DNA all over the evidence. The observer fundamentally alters the thing they are trying to observe.
In anthropology, this is the classic observer effect. We have to consider how power dynamics work in these interactions.
Right.
You have a wealthy, educated Westerner holding a physical book, arriving in a village that has defined itself by the loss of a physical book. And the missionary begins asking leading questions. Do you have a supreme God? Did he make the first woman from a rib?
An oral culture, which survives by being adaptable and building rapport, might just bend their stories to please the listener.
Exactly. They hear the missionary story, realize it sounds a little bit like their own sky god myth, and rapidly synthesize the two to build a bridge with this powerful newcomer.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
it highlights how incredibly difficult it is for historians to untangle a pure oral tradition once two cultures make contact.
because they just blend together.
Right. Oral histories are not locked in a vault. They are living, breathing mechanisms that absorb new information rapidly. Stern argues that the missionaries' own eagerness to find biblical parallels blinded them to the fact that they were shaping the myths in real time through a Christian lens.
So, under that theory, the foundation of a creator god named Yawa was already there. But the incredibly specific details, like the rib, the fruit of trial, or the concept of the younger brother, those crystallized much later as trade routes opened and missionaries started asking very pointed questions.
That's right. And many modern scholars lean toward a complex middle ground.
A synthesis of both ideas.
Yeah. They suggest that the Karen likely did have a genuine, ancient, proto-monotheistic tradition, but that this baseline tradition was heavily shaped, amplified, and perhaps retroactively clarified through later indirect and eventually direct contact with Abrahamic religions.
It's such a brilliant debate about human nature. I mean, are we preservers of ancient truth, or are we rapid adapters of new ideas? Let's bring all of this together. Today, we've journeyed from the linguistic twins of Yawa and YHWH, exploring the deep theology of the flowing Lord and the self-existent one.
We've walked through the shared mechanics of creation, too. The formless water, the breath of life in the dust, and that highly specific creation of woman from a rib.
Yeah. We've looked at the emotional weight of a culture waiting for a golden book returned by a divine younger brother, and how that perfectly mirrors the Jewish mysticism of the lesser YHWH and the Christian concept of a fulfilling Messiah.
The sheer volume and specificity of these correspondences make this case one of the most enduring puzzles in the comparative study of religion.
And for you, listening to this right now, why does a debate about an isolated tribe in Myanmar matter to your life? Well, it matters because it highlights the sheer, undeniable resilience of human belief.
It really does.
Whether this story survived through an ironclad chain of ancient memory spanning millennia, or whether it's the result of a complex, beautiful blending of migrating cultures adapting to survive. It shows that the human desire to understand our origins and to know what our destiny is a universal language.
We all want to know where the story started and how it ends. It reminds us that humanity is deeply connected in our search for meaning, often in ways that completely defy our neat historical timelines.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. We've seen how an oral tradition can hold a theological framework as complex and nuanced as any written library.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes you wonder, what other profound paradigm-shifting histories are currently locked away in the folklore of the world's remaining unwritten languages? What ancient memories are just sitting out there in the mountains or the jungles right now, just waiting for us to find the right key to understand them before they disappear forever?
That is a fascinating question to consider.
Keep your mind open, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.